You want your ex to come back? You want them to look at you and think, damn, what was I thinking letting that go? Good, because I'm going to tell you the one thing that makes 99% of them come chasing you like their soul is on fire. But first, listen to me. This is not about tricks. This is not manipulation. This is about you reclaiming your power. You ready? Because once you get this, not just in your head, but in your gut, you won't just get your ex's attention. You'll become unforgettable. The truth bomb, emotional impact. Here's the truth. Most people chase after someone who left them. They beg, they text, they cry, they scroll through old photos like it's a funeral. But that energy, that desperate, needy energy, it doesn't pull people toward you. It repels them. Because here's what you forgot. You were the prize. You still are the prize. But you gave your power away. Now I'm going to teach you how to get it back. The one thing that makes 99% of exes come back, radical transformation. And I'm not talking about changing your haircut or going to the gym once a week. I'm talking about becoming a version of yourself so elevated, so locked in, so lit up with purpose and self-respect that the world, and yes, even your ex, stops and says, what the hell happened to them? Let me be crystal clear. This isn't about them. This is about you becoming so aligned, so powerful that you outgrow who you were in that relationship. You become magnetic because nothing, and I mean nothing, is more attractive than a person who's obsessed with their life, not their ex. Practical call to action with emotion. So here's what you do. You stop stalking their feed and start feeding your soul. You stop crying over the door that closed and start building a new house. You stop asking why they left and start asking, what can I build now that they're gone? You get in the best shape of your life, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. You show the world what they lost, not by chasing them, but by rising so far they couldn't catch you even if they tried. Closing powerful emotional search. When you become the version of yourself that your soul's been begging you to become, your ex won't just want to come back. They'll wonder how they ever let you go. But here's the twist. By the time they come running, you might not even want them anymore. Because when you fall back in love with you, you don't settle for breadcrumbs, you feast. Now get out there and become unforgettable. Most people, when they experience a breakup, fall into the same trap. They start chasing. They chase through texts, calls, social media likes, or long emotional messages that feel like they're fighting for their life. But what they're really doing is bleeding power. They're giving it away in buckets. Every time you beg for attention, every time you wonder what they're doing, every time you replay conversations looking for clues, you're handing over control of your self-worth to someone who already walked away. And the truth is, no one is attracted to that energy. No one looks at desperation and says, I need more of that. Because the second you start chasing, you confirm to them that they're above you. You're telling them they have more value than you. And let me tell you something, that is a lie. You don't need to chase what's already meant for you, and you sure as hell don't need to beg someone to love you. What you need is to stop. Full stop. Pull your energy back. Reclaim your center. Take your power out of their hands and plant it right back into your chest. Because the moment you start pouring your time, focus, and intensity into someone who left, you forget the truth of who you are. Breakups are a test. They don't just test your heart, they test your identity. They ask you, do you remember who you are without them? And most people fail that test because they think the pain means they've lost something irreplaceable. But what you've really lost is your mirror. You got used to seeing your value through someone else's eyes. And now that they're gone, you feel invisible. But you're not. You were never defined by their attention. You were never valuable because they chose you. You were valuable before they arrived, and you're valuable now that they're gone. The only thing that's changed is your belief. Reclaiming your power is not about pretending you don't care. It's about understanding that your energy is sacred. It's not meant to be thrown at closed doors. It's meant to be invested in your growth, your healing, your future. That doesn't mean you don't hurt. It means you take that hurt and you turn it into fuel. You turn pain into clarity. You turn rejection into redirection. And that begins when you stop chasing. There's a shift that happens when you move from desperation to discipline. When you stop saying, why don't they want me, and start saying, why would I want someone who doesn't recognize my worth? That's when things begin to change. Because energy doesn't lie. When you're grounded, focused, and standing in your power, people feel it, your presence shifts, your conversations change, your posture is different. You don't need to scream for attention when you radiate certainty. Think about it. The people you admire, the ones you're drawn to, they don't chase. They don't beg. They attract by being so deeply rooted in who they are that others gravitate toward them. That's what reclaiming your power looks like. It's becoming someone who doesn't need validation to feel worthy. It's choosing yourself so fully that others can't help but feel it when they're around you. And here's the wild part. When you stop chasing, when you truly step into that energy, that's when they usually come back. Because they feel the shift, they feel your detachment, and now the power dynamic is flipped. Now they're the ones wondering what happened, where your attention went, why they're no longer the center of your universe. And whether you take them back or not, that's up to you, but the point isn't to get them back. The point is to get you back. Most people walk around thinking love is about pursuit. It's not. It's about alignment. It's about recognizing that the right person doesn't need to be chased. They meet you at your level. But they can't meet you there if you've dropped to your knees begging for breadcrumbs. So you rise. You rise so high that your self-worth is no longer negotiable. You rise so high that they'd have to level up just to have a conversation with you. Because when you reclaim your power, everything changes. You become untouchable, unshakable. Radical self-transformation is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about finally becoming the person you've always been, underneath the noise, the fear, the doubt, and the stories you've been told about what's possible for you. It's shedding the layers that were never yours to begin with. It's cutting through the excuses, the victim mindset, the belief that you're not enough, and finally saying, I'm done living small. Most people think that getting someone back requires strategy. Text them this, wait 3 days, post a photo looking happy, but those are surface tactics. They don't create true impact. What moves people at their core isn't what you say, it's who you become. And when you change at a fundamental level, when you transform your body, your mind, your habits, your confidence, your environment, people feel that, even if they can't explain it. They sense it. And in that moment, the story they had of you begins to collapse. Transformation doesn't mean changing to please someone else. It means evolving to fulfill your own potential. It's deciding that your past will not define your future. It's refusing to be the same person a year from now that you are today. Most people are stuck in a loop, living the same patterns, repeating the same days with different distractions. They want different results, but they don't want to change who they are. And that's the trap. Because if you want your reality to shift, you have to shift first. You start waking up earlier. You stop numbing your pain with comfort food, endless scrolling, or people who waste your time. You start reading, you move your body. You learn how to breathe through your emotions instead of letting them control you. You stop reacting and start responding. And every day, you build new evidence that you're not who you used to be. And that's when something powerful happens. You stop caring whether your ex sees you or not. Because the work becomes about you, not them. And ironically, that's when you become magnetic, because nothing is more attractive than someone who doesn't need you, but chooses themselves. Someone who walks with certainty, speaks with intention, and knows their value. Your ex might not say out loud, but they notice. They notice the glow, the discipline, the way you walk into a room like you belong there, the way you laugh without bitterness, the way your eyes no longer carry the weight of desperation. That energy is undeniable. And this isn't about surface level changes. This is about identity. When you commit to radical transformation, you're not tweaking your behavior. You're burning down the old version of you and building something stronger from the ashes. You're breaking patterns that have been in your family for generations. You're becoming the version of yourself that no longer waits to be chosen because you already chose yourself. The people around you start to shift too. Some fall away because they were only aligned with your old self. Others are drawn to your new standard. And that includes your ex. They may come back not because you said the right thing, but because they feel the pull of your evolution. But now, you're different. You don't need closure. You don't need validation. You've created something bigger than any relationship. You've created momentum. And momentum is powerful. It's what turns insecurity into confidence, fear into courage, and pain into purpose. When you're in motion, when you're improving at every level, mind, body, spirit, your energy speaks before you do. People sense it, they respect it, and they're drawn to it because so few people are truly living like that. Most are just existing. But you're not most people anymore. And what's wild is once you commit to this level of transformation, you start seeing clearly. You stop romanticizing the past. You stop looking at your ex like they were the solution. You see the reality, not the illusion. You recognize the lessons, not the losses. And you start to feel proud, not just of what you survived, but of who you're becoming. The transformation becomes its own reward. The chase ends. Focus on building a life so powerful they can't ignore it. That's the move. Not calling them, not texting them late at night, not hoping they check your stories or miss your voice. It's about pouring every ounce of your attention, your energy, and your ambition into becoming a force of nature. When you do that, people can't help but feel your presence, even from a distance. They sense your growth. They feel your absence like a weight in the air because you've shifted from needing them to needing nothing but your mission. A powerful life isn't built on revenge. It's not built on trying to make them jealous. It's built on purpose. It's built on the kind of goals that make you excited to wake up in the morning. The kind of discipline that makes you proud to look in the mirror at night. You stop sitting around waiting to be chosen and you start choosing you every single day. Because if you want to get someone's attention, the most effective way is to stop trying and start thriving. When your life is rich with momentum, with growth, with new experiences, people notice. Not just your ex, everyone. They see it in the way you move, in the way you walk into a room, in the way you talk about your passions. You become a magnet, not because you're trying to be one, but because you are too focused on building something real to chase anything temporary. And that shift is what pulls people in. Because most people are stagnant. Most people are replaying the same patterns, complaining about the same problems, living in circles instead of climbing upward, but not you. You're building. You're reading when others are scrolling. You're working out when others are sleeping. You're building new habits while others are staying stuck in old cycles. And every time you choose growth over comfort, Every time you choose progress over excuses, you're separating yourself from the noise. You're rising. And people feel that. They may not understand it, but they feel it. The life you build speaks louder than any words. You don't have to announce what you're doing when your actions are so loud that silence becomes powerful. Your ex starts to wonder. They start to question. They start to scroll, to check, to ask mutual friends what's going on with you. And what they find is that you're not waiting around, you're not heartbroken and stuck in the past, you're not dwelling, you're leveling up. And that stings in a way no message ever could. But this isn't about pain, this is about power. Because the moment you commit to building a life so powerful they can't ignore it, you take all your energy out of the past and plant it in your future. You stop replaying memories and start writing new ones. You stop hoping they'll return and start hoping you'll never shrink to fit that version of yourself again. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. And the life you create begins to reflect that. Success is not just about money or status. It's about alignment. It's about integrity. It's about knowing who you are and refusing to apologize for your growth. It's about becoming the kind of person that makes people think, I need to raise my game if I want to keep up with them. That's what building a powerful life does. It sets a new standard. It makes people reflect, and that includes your ex, because when someone sees that you're not the same, they have to confront the fact that they stayed the same. When they see you glowing, they're forced to question why they're still dim. And if they do try to come back, it's not because you begged, it's because your evolution was undeniable. But here's the truth, you don't build for them. You build for you. Because when you stop making them the goal and start making your life the goal, everything changes. You become unstoppable, not because someone came back, but because you finally moved forward. And that's what makes you unforgettable. Obsession with growth beats obsession with the past every single time. But most people don't realize they're stuck in a loop. They replay the relationship in their head like a highlight reel that only shows the good parts. They rewrite history, soften the sharp edges, ignore the red flags, and convince themselves that the past was better than it actually was. That obsession keeps them frozen. They stalk their ex on social media, analyze every word in old texts, talk about them in every conversation, and relive the breakup daily as if keeping the pain alive somehow gives it meaning. But what it really does is rob them of the present. The past can be a teacher, but it's not meant to be a home. Growth lives in the now. It lives in the uncomfortable, in the uncertain, in the stretch between who you've been and who you could be. And yet, most people would rather cling to the familiar pain of the past than face the unknown of real transformation. Why? Because it's easier to fantasize about what was than to build what could be. But comfort is a trap. Nostalgia is a liar. And staying stuck in yesterday guarantees that tomorrow will look exactly the same. When you shift your obsession away from what you lost and toward what you can create, everything changes. You stop waking up asking why they left, and you start waking up asking what you can build today. You start seeing the pain not as a punishment, but as fuel. You stop trying to figure out what they're thinking, and you start getting clear on what you're thinking. You stop letting your emotions control you, and you begin directing them like a laser toward your evolution. Growth is not glamorous. It's hard. It's daily. It requires discipline. But obsession with growth makes it sustainable. When you get addicted to improvement, you don't have time to sit in regret. You're too busy getting better. You're too focused on developing your mindset, upgrading your environment, improving your health, building your income, refining your circle. You start to feel momentum again, and that momentum gives you something the past never could. Real power. Obsession with growth creates an energy shift that's impossible to ignore. Your vibe changes. Your voice gets stronger, your presence gets lighter, you start speaking with intention, you walk with purpose, you make decisions based on where you're going, not what you've lost. And as that transformation deepens, your past starts to fade, not because it wasn't important, but because it's no longer relevant to where you're headed. The people who remain obsessed with the past often find themselves stuck in cycles of pain, self-blame, and confusion. They think if they just analyze it enough, they'll find closure. But closure doesn't come from understanding every detail. Closure comes from choosing growth. It comes from deciding that your future matters more than your history, that you're not going to let one chapter define the whole story. When you make growth your obsession, you start to see the breakup as the beginning, not the end. You realize it cracked something open in you, something that needed to be rebuilt stronger. You stop blaming them for leaving and start thanking the situation for waking you up. You stop seeing heartbreak as destruction and start seeing it as instruction. It becomes the thing that shook you out of autopilot and forced you to evolve. And as you grow, something else happens. You start to become someone you admire. You're not just doing the work for an outcome, you're doing it because it's who you are now. You've raised your standard. You've outgrown the need for external validation. You found power in discipline, beauty in progress, and strength in forward motion. You realize that the life you're building wouldn't exist if you were still clinging to the past. People notice when you're obsessed with growth. They feel your energy shift, even through a screen. They see you doing things they didn't expect. They wonder how you're thriving when you should be broken. And sometimes they come back not because you chased them, but because your transformation made them question their own stagnation. But by then, you've changed. Your focus is no longer on getting someone back, it's on never going backward again. By the time they come back, you might not want them. And that's not just a clever line. It's a reality that hits hard when you've done the inner work. In the beginning, when the breakup is fresh, all you can think about is how to win them back. Every decision, every thought, every action revolves around the idea of somehow reversing the loss. You imagine what it would feel like if they called, if they apologized, if they finally realized what they lost. But what you don't realize in that moment is that time has a way of revealing the truth, not just about them, but about you. When you commit to healing, when you really lean into growth instead of grasping at the past, something starts to shift. Slowly, almost without realizing it, your reasons for wanting them back begin to change. You start to understand that what you were missing wasn't necessarily them, but the feeling they gave you. The validation, the excitement, the sense of connection. And as you build that within yourself, you begin to see the relationship differently. You start to see the gaps, the things you ignored, the ways you made yourself smaller just to hold it together. The pedestal you had them on begins to crumble. You stop seeing them as the one that got away and start seeing them as a person, flawed, human, maybe even unaware of how much they took you for granted. It's not about bitterness, it's about clarity. When you're in pain, clarity is impossible. But with distance, with growth, and with honest reflection, you begin to ask different questions. Not how do I get them back, but why did I ever let that version of myself settle for less than I deserve? By the time they circle back, and many do, it's often because they feel your detachment. They sense that you're no longer waiting. You're not lingering in their shadow. You're not watching their every move. And that absence is powerful. That silence speaks louder than any message you could have sent. It disrupts the narrative they created, where they assumed you'd always be available, always wanting, always hoping. But now they see the shift, and it unsettles them. They may come back with new energy, more compliments, more effort, more curiosity about what you've been up to. And in the past, that would have lit you up. But now, something inside you stays still. Not cold, just clear. You listen to what they say, but you pay more attention to what you feel. And more often than not, you realize that the version of you who wanted them isn't the version you are anymore. Growth is like that. It changes your taste. It upgrades your boundaries. It rewires what you're willing to tolerate. You start to recognize red flags as deal breakers instead of romantic challenges. You realize that consistency is more attractive than chemistry, that peace is more valuable than passion alone. You're not looking for someone to fill a gap. You've already filled it yourself. So now any connection has to add to your life, not complete it. And that's the part your ex didn't expect. They thought the door would stay open. They thought they could return to the same dynamic. But you've changed the locks. Not out of spite, but out of growth. And when you look at them now, you might feel something. Familiarity, maybe even warmth, but not longing, not desperation. Because what you've built within yourself, around yourself, is too solid to trade for a second round of what broke you. There's a freedom that comes with that realization, a confidence, not because someone came back, but because you no longer need them to. You understand that love, when it's right, doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't walk away to test your worth. It shows up. It stays. And when it doesn't, it teaches. You no longer chase closure because you've created it. You don't wait for someone to come back to feel validated because you've learned how to validate yourself. You don't hope they remember your value. You live in it daily. And when they come back, which they often do, it's no longer a reward, it's a reminder. A reminder of how far you've come. A reflection of a chapter that helped shape you, but no longer defines you. You might listen, you might even appreciate the moment, but you don't shrink yourself to fit back into a version of the past that no longer aligns with who you are.